Today I will discuss my project about Schultz Human Capital Theory of Education. I am Safikul Haldar. My roll number MF-43, 4th SEM 2023 to 24. Course 243A. Context: what is human capital? Key takeaways: human capital theory, types of fixed capital, growth of the human capital, Indian sources of human capital, criticism, conclusion. What is human capital? Now I will discuss. Human capital is a loose term that refers to the educational attainment, knowledge, experience, and skills of an employee. The theory of human capital is relatively new in finance and economics. It states that companies have an incentive to seek productive human capital and to add to the human capital of their existing employees. Put another way, human capital is the concept that recognizes labor capital is not homogeneous. Key takeaways. Human capital is the intangible economic value of a worker's experience and skills. This includes factors like education, training, intelligence, skills, health, and other things employees value, such as loyalty and punctuality. The human capital theory posits that human beings can increase their productive capacity through greater education and skills training. Critics of the theory argue that it is flawed, overly simplistic, and confounds labor with capital. Understanding the human capital theory in the 1916s, economists Gray, Becker, and Theodore Schultz pointed out that education and training were investments that could add to productivity as the world accumulated more and more physical capital. The opportunity cost of going to school declined. Education has become an increasingly important component of the workforce. Corporate finance also adopted the term and became part of intellectual capital and more broadly as human capital. Intellectual and human capital are treated as renewable sources of productivity. Organizations try to cultivate these sources, hoping for added innovation and creativity. Sometimes a business problem requires more than just new machines or more money. The possible downside of relying too heavily on human capital is that it is portable. The employee, never the employer, always owns human capital. Unlike a structural capital equipment, a human employee can leave an organization. Most organizations can steps to support their most useful employees to prevent them from leaving for other firms. 75% the average wage premium for someone with a 4-year degree, according to a 2021 study by Georgetown University. The researchers found that someone with a bachelor's degree can earn an average salary 75% higher than the same person with only a high school diploma. Human capital critics. Early critics. Not all economists agree that human capital directly raises productivity. In 1976, for instance, Harvard economist Richard Freeman argued that human capital only acted as a signal about talent and ability. Real productivity came later through training, motivation, and capital equipment. He concluded that human capital should not be considered a factor of production. Around the same time, Marxist economists Samuel Bowles and Herbert Ginz argued against the human capital theory, stating that turning people, that is labor, into capital essential squashes arguments around class conflict and efforts to empower workers' right. Modern critics from sociologists and anthropologists argue against the human capital theory, saying it offers extremely simple principle and purpose to explain everyone's wages all the time or a universal connection between human capital, productivity, and income. But when researchers look closely at this, for the most part, productivity differences between individuals cannot be measured objectively. T. Schultz Human Capital Theory of Education. T. Schultz discusses human capital theory. It defines human capital as the skills, knowledge, and ability embodied in an individual that can be used to produce economic value. The theory postulates that investments in education and training increase workers' productivity and future income by raising their lifetime earning potential. The concept of human capital originated The concept of human capital originated in 1915s and was developed by economists like Jacob Mincer, Gary Becker, and T.W. Schultz to explain differences in individual incomes. Critics argued that the theory oversimplifies human activity and productivity gains from education. Human capital theory types of fixed capital, useful mechanisms, and instruments of the trade, building as the means of procuring revenue, improvement of land and acquired and useful ability of all inhabitants or members of the society. Origin of the term Jacob Mincer investment in human capital, personal income distribution in the Journal of Political Economy in 1958 was not used due to its negative understanding till Art Cecil discussed it. T.W. Schultz, who is also contributed to the development of the subject matter. Human capital. Human capital is the stock of competence, of knowledge, social and personally attributed, including creativity in the ability to perform labor to produce economic value. The ability to read and write, or in special terms such as the acquisition of a particular strength with unlimited industrial application, similar to physical means of production, factories and mechanics can invest in human capital via education, trading, medical treatment, and one's outputs develop partly on the rate of the turn on the human capital of its own means of the production into the additional investment avails additional output. Human capital is substitutable but not transferred like land and labor. Growth of the human capital consistently increased after independence due to qualitative improvement in the East generation. Third generation qualitative superior human resources in India. Theory: education or training increases the productivity of the world by importing useful knowledge and skills, hence raising workers' future income by increasing their lifetime earnings. It postulates that expenditure on training and education is costly and should be considered when investment since undertaken to increase personal incomes. Sources of human capital: innate ability, schooling, training, pre-labor market influences. Conclusion: Theodore Schultz, a renowned economist and Nobel laureate, pioneered the concept of human capital in education. He argued that investment in education and skills development is essential for economic growth and individual prosperity. Schultz believed that education enhances an individual's productivity, earning potential, and overall well-being. Schultz Human Capital Theory emphasizes that education is a form of investment in oneself, leading to increased economic output and higher earnings. He advocated for individuals to invest in their own education and skills development, as well as for government and institutions to support education and training programs. Some key aspects of schools' human capital theory in education include education as investment. Schools viewed education as a form of investment in human capital, leading to increased productivity and earning potential. Skills development. He emphasized the importance of skill development and training programs in enhancing individual productivity and employability. Economic growth. Schools believed that investing in education and human capital is essential for economic growth and development. Individual prosperity. He argued that education and skills development are key drivers of individual prosperity and well-being. Schools work has had a significant impact on education policy and economic development strategies worldwide. His ideas continue to influence research and policy debates in the fields of education, economics, and human development. References here, and at last, thank you of all.